Welcome to the SaaS AdLab podcast, where we bring to you the stories of SaaS founders, entrepreneurs, and CEOs. My name is Luis. I'm the founder of Fantôm Agency, a digital marketing agency specializing in scaling SaaS companies. And today we have the pleasure of interviewing Susanne. She's the founder of DerButton. Thank you so much, Susanne, for being on here today with us. I know it's very, very late for you in the other side of the world, and I really appreciate you taking the time out of your night to do this here with us today. And before I dive into it, I do want to mention there will be a discount code for anyone that wants to try out DerButton, and we'll make sure that we put that in the description of wherever you're listening or watching. And with that being said, Susanne, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. So thanks, first of all, for having me on this. I'm really happy. So I'm the co-founder of DerButton. DerButton is actually the German article for der, so it's a kind of like DerButton. And what we do is we do the entire customer interaction process handling within the push of one button. Mm-hmm. So our button, our software solution, our SaaS solution, integrates automated scheduling, video meetings, and payments all in one button. To help professionals, especially knowledge experts, build a seamless customer experience. So how it works is that similar to kind of Calendly, but we have some more functionality. So it's not only the scheduling part, but once you schedule an appointment with an expert, you can immediately have a video call with that person without having to exchange any Skype details or exchanging any links, Zoom links, etc. And right when you hang up the call, you can immediately charge your client. We issue an invoice automatically, and the money is right in your bank account without having to do anything for it, basically.
That's
except for
awesome. It sounds like a super helpful product for people in that space that do like consulting and things like that. And with that being said, it kind of makes me wonder, how did you, or what was the main driver to create this product? Was it something that you were doing yourself and you couldn't find a solution? Was it something that you saw that people were looking for and could never find it? Or how did you come across, the idea?
So actually we started off with a different startup. It's called CoachBox. It's an online marketplace where you can find coaches, book them, have video calls with them, and pay for it. And CoachBox started off with my own need of finding a coach and realizing how difficult it is to actually find a coach and get in touch with them, and without having any transparency on the prices, on the availabilities. It's just a real pain, especially when you're so used as a customer to booking everything online. Like you book trains online, you book flights online, you book food and everything. And then when it comes to booking appointments with professionals, such as coaches or consultants or doctors or lawyers, you still have to do it the old-fashioned way. Like you have to call during working hours, or you have to write endless emails back and forth. And all of that is just such a pain that we realized. And then while we were working on CoachBox, we had so many talks with our coaches. We had 120 coaches that are currently working with our platform on CoachBox, and we talked to them and realized that that's actually not only a need that coaches have, but that actually a lot of other people have too. And that's why we decided to kind of make a spin-off and offer a SaaS solution for anybody else out there who has customer meetings and wants to get paid faster and wants to handle those faster and more efficiently.
Very cool. So as far as, tell me really quickly, how long has DerButton been out there?
The button has only been out there since April. So we're still quite a young startup. We've been starting off with CoachBox a year and a half ago. So we've been working for 1 year on CoachBox, and then we had the spin-off. And now we're doing both things at the same time, which is kind of fun and exciting, and at the same time very challenging too.
That's awesome. So before getting more into the product and a little bit other things, what did you do before going into the SaaS space?
I actually worked in the automotive industry, and then I worked in my own family's business, which was a very, very different business. It's a plastic production company, very much industrial, not very software based at all. And so there was a lot of pen and paper handling still in this company. And that's also where I got more and more interest into like digitizing processes and figuring out how you can take existing things that are kind of obvious that they have to be digitized in the future, and you just do it. So
that's awesome.
Congruent,
because it is such like polar opposites, right? Where you have something that's very industrious, like you said, and now you're going to a very like streamlined SaaS product. And I'm kind of wondering, you know, where, I guess, how did you deal with that transition from doing something so completely different to creating a product and monetizing it and putting it out in front of thousands of people, millions potentially, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is really challenging, and I think you just have to like live your vision every day. Like you have to kind of not lose your focus. And I think it's just the moment you have like a solution in your head and you want to get it out, you just start doing one step after the other. And in the beginning, it is struggling, especially. I don't have a IT background, so for me, it was very important to have a strong partner who has my co-founder, Illa, and he's the IT brain behind it, and he's been really focusing on creating the products, and that was a really good collaboration. And I think it's important that you first of all have your like solution in mind and that you don't lose focus, but at the same time, it's really important that you have a good team around you.
That's
that
awesome.
Make it happen, yeah.
Yeah, so that was going to be my next question, because, you know, the obviously the IT part of everything is extremely important in this industry, and really one of the things I feel like people struggle with initially is they have all these ideas, but they don't have the technical skills to actually bring them to life. So how did you find your co-founder?
We were actually really good friends for a long time, so it was just a very lucky coincidence. And we just decided at some point that we wanted to do some projects together because we were both interested in creating our own thing. And we had a quite similar idea at the same moment in time. He was thinking of actually getting psychotherapists online and having more like consulting services online. And I was also more coming from the coaching side, and somehow we were just having a similar idea at the same time, and we just said, okay, let's do it.
That's awesome. And so you know, it's such a young company still. And what are some of the things that you've noticed, right? And you mentioned that one of the first things that you mentioned that caught my attention was the fact that you're talking about, you know, being for coaches and things like that. But then you also mentioned that it's pretty much for anyone that is looking for a solution like that. How important do you think niching down will be, whether it's now or near the future?
I do think that right now we're in a quite interesting phase because we are kind of trying out everything, and we are testing different target groups, and we are trying to still figure out which target group is the best. And so far we have not really been, I mean, we have some ideas of who is using our system more and who's just signing up to sign up and not really using it. So we know who our power customers are, and they are going more towards those kind of people that are doing consulting services. But we have a lot of other ones too. We have even like clinicians, like electricians, and people that would maybe not be so obvious. They are also using our tool because it's not only for video calls, but you can also schedule face-to-face meetings. And that's why it becomes more interesting for other people too that just want to make money with their time. And for us, it's we've been really doing a lot of different tests. We are currently creating different landing pages for different target groups and really trying to make a very focused tests for different target groups. But I think in the future, our goal is to like we actually want to find one target group now that we really believe in. We want to grow this one target group, and then we want to go one target group after the other until we are really big.
Yeah, so I think that's always important, is finding one, focusing it, mastering that one. And then once you have that one pretty much, you know, locked in, then you can go and try to do the next one and the next one and the next one. Sometimes it's really hard to really, you know, try to go on every vertical because you start spreading yourself too thin. So essentially, even if you think about it like in a paid advertising form, right? When you have, let's say you have $1,000 to spend, instead of spending $1,000 on just coaches, now you're spending $100 on 10 different ones, and it gets messy, right? So There's different ways to look at things like that, but I think you're on the right track with that. And obviously it's still super early stages where you're still learning and testing different things to understand who your core audience is and really have that product market fit, right? Now, with so many different options being out there, and you mentioned Calendly being one of them, but there's a ton of them. What are you currently doing kind of to stand out? And obviously, different features are a big part of it. Like Calendly is pretty focused on really just, taking appointments and booking it on your calendar. And then it looks like you have a lot more robust product so far, and it's still very early stages. So I'm interested in knowing, what are kind of like what's the vision with the product, and where is this going, and how are you trying to stand out from anything that's out there already?
So our vision is to really become the number one tool for people who, for actually this whole gig economy. So for people who really want to make money with the time, want to work flexibly, want to work wherever they are. From all these digital nomads, all these people that are really just out there and want to make money. And it is very difficult, of course, because of course our competitors are also trying to get exactly the same people. So one thing is, of course, that we're going towards getting more features or more relevant features for this target group, because right now, even though Calendly is amazing, Calendly is really targeting everyone because they can, because they are a very good product. But what we do differently is that we want to be the best product for those knowledge experts, for those people that want to make money in video calls and video meetings.
Awesome.
And that's one thing. And what we have realized too is that there are lots of existing expert networks out there that have been growing for the last decades, and they have been, for example, there are niche platforms for psychologists, niche platforms for consultants, for astrologists, for any kind of services, and they have these like existing directories where you don't really see much more than a picture, a name, an email address, and maybe a telephone number. That's about it. And sometimes it's a contacting form. So what we are doing, or our approach right now, is that we are really contacting one after the other of these directories, and we're trying to partner up with them, and we are giving them our tool because it's so easily integrable. They can just put it on their own platform, and by doing that, those kind of existing platforms can become booking platforms for those services immediately with one integration. So that's kind of our approach, that we are going towards existing expert networks instead of going through each and every individual separately, because that is very time consuming. So our big focus right now is to find a lot of different partners. And the same holds true for existing software solutions. So we are trying to partner up with existing software solutions that those target groups are already using. For example, we are right now in the process of partnering up with a lawyer software here in Austria, Germany. And they, for example, are just going to add our tool, and they're going to just resell it for their customers. And we don't have to go to each and every lawyer anymore. We're just doing it by themselves. And these kind of things are quite interesting for us. So we are really trying to scale with that, also because we do not have the same budgets available as our big competitors have.
That's awesome, and that's smart. I think, one of the best ways to do that, kind of, it's a little bit of a growth hack that you have going on, right? Where you're putting your product in front of pretty much anyone else that's going to there. So using those directories is definitely a way to scale that and make it at the same time very niched, because like you said, you go into the lawyer directory, and now every lawyer is going there for information or whatever they need. So that's definitely an awesome thing. And I think you missed some of the stuff that I just said.
Sorry, yeah. Somehow the internet wasn't good enough.
No worries.
It's so sad. We're working in the IT business, and we like our internet is not.
No worries. I was just saying that it's important to use those type of networks because they're very niche down, and essentially anyone that's in that same space will be going to that directory, looking at the tool. Oh, it looks interesting, and you don't have to do all that work. So you're pretty much having like a sales rep, right, taking care of certain things for you, which is awesome. And you don't even have to. I mean, obviously there might be some sort of transaction between you and them, but it's not going to be anything big. So that's awesome. And as far as, what would you say is the one thing that the customers that you have right now absolutely love? Like if they could get rid of every single feature, which one would they keep?
It's difficult because it is a combination. I think the best combination is that you can actually get paid for the time that you spend with your customer immediately, and that has to do with that you can actually book an appointment and immediately afterwards get paid for it. The video solution is a nice add-on, but it's not the most important thing right now. The most important thing is actually that they get the money immediately, that they don't have to take care of writing an invoice, waiting for the money, checking the balance, all of these kind of things.
Awesome. And as far as, other than reaching out to like the directories and things like that, what's been the most successful way for you to acquire new customers?
One of them is that we just partnered up with the biggest Austrian telecommunication provider. And they are really interested in reselling our product, and they are adding us to their products right now. And these it's also a bigger partnership, of course, but these things really help a lot, I believe. We just started, so we will see, but that was actually quite, I think it will be quite successful. We also had a really interesting telesales test with them. So their telesales team was actually calling their customers and asking them if they're interested in DerButton as well. And that was super successful. And I would not believe how many people would actually sign up while they are on the phone with you for a software solution. That was really surprising for me, and that's something I would have not thought of. I thought that, okay, because we're doing a SaaS product, we have to kind of sell it over other media, like over other channels, like online channels, and not via the phone. But that really worked well. What I've learned through that is that you really have to apparently make sure that you are closing the customer on the phone while you're still talking to them, at least for a test customer. So what we really did then was we called them and we said, hey, this is the product that we have. Can we send you a link where you can have like 2 weeks free to test our product? And then we just signed them up while we were talking to them, and we sent them the link so they already had a ready-made account for them, and they could just use it immediately without having the whole onboarding process. It is time consuming, but in the beginning it was definitely worth it.
That's awesome. No, and one of the things too that I think, it's difficult to get out there is the actual, I don't want to call it a transaction, especially not when it's a free trial. But with SaaS companies, it's even though the process, right, is so easy for me to go and do a free trial or whatever, for some reason people don't do it. And it's too much to go out of their way to go do something like that. And I think when they have it done immediately for them, and then you just give them the option to start using it, it's a lot easier for them to actually, adopt to the new product. And one of the things, and this is a good question for you too, is how are you explaining, how to use a product? Because user onboarding is huge. And obviously, for example, I use Calendly right now, so I know how to use that now. But if I wanted to go into DerButton and, it's going to be different, right? So there's going to be a couple of differences that I'd have to get used to and learn how to use. What is the user onboarding process at the moment?
At the moment, it's pretty much self-onboarding, but we do realize that there are some things that we have to fix because it's not going that smooth yet. Especially, explaining, like, it's difficult to explain, but it's really crazy how many people do not know how to actually fill in a form, and how many people we have, of course, our little chat box that opens up when they are on our website, and we have no idea how many people just write it there all the time about, I'm not sure how to continue. And then we're like, okay, just check that box and click on next. And these kind of like small things that you really have to do, and realize that our user experience has to be, of course, adapted more and more. And according to that feedback, we have to really take that feedback seriously, because that's like, we're so lucky when people actually write us in that chat box, because that means that they're actually interested in, that they interact. But all those people that are just giving up right when they don't know how to click on next, those are the people that we really have to make sure that we can keep them. And that's why it's just so important to make this user flow very smooth. And we of course have tutorials. We are now making also screen recordings for our products so that people really stop asking so many questions and just read about it. But still they do ask questions, and it's fine for us because we get feedback, but it is sometimes quite frustrating.
And as far as the team behind DerButton, is it just you and your co-founder, or is there more people involved that can go in there, after hours or whatever the case may be, to go and reply to these questions? Or is it something that you guys have to go out of your day to do?
Yeah, right now we still have to kind of go out of our day to do it. We do have, we're now 7 people in the team. Okay. But we are all based in Austria, which is more difficult with the time zones, of course, because we don't have 24/7 support. Even though we have an amazing team who is actually like every day, I usually work quite late too, of course. And whenever I get a message in at midnight, of course, I respond to that customer support request. And oftentimes I wake up in the morning and I realize that my colleagues actually have responded to something in the middle of the night too. So it's just right now we're just doing everything we can, but we don't have a 24/7 support yet. But I also think that most customers do expect you to have a 24/7 support, but if you explain yourself well and if you say, hey, sorry, we're just a small startup yet, and that's just how it is, but we're really trying to keep up with our requests, then they also understand it really well. And I don't think we are losing customers. I mean, sometimes we of course do, but we're trying to grow. Yeah, most people understand it. We're trying to grow, and most people understand that you can't be an amazing company from the day one. You have to grow, and you have to understand, you have to improve. And
absolutely. And one of the things that really stands out to me, and when companies do something like this, and you kind of mentioned it in a way that as long as you explain it well, they understand. And I think it's true, right? When people are transparent and they show their I mean, it's a company, right? But when they show their true colors and their motives and things like that, it gives it more of a personal approach. Where, if you did have a 24/7 team, maybe they would be outsourced, in another country or something like that. But essentially being transparent and being, vulnerable, I guess you could say, as a company is really, to me at least, and I think is the case for most people, just because it's how we are as humans, right? There's sympathy that goes with everything. And I think that's one of the cool things about being in the digital space, is that you can connect with your your customers essentially at all times of the day. But even when you can't, you can still use some form of automation to explain, this is how things are right now, and we're sorry that we can't help you right now, but we'll be here first thing tomorrow morning or something like that. Obviously you want to give them the best support that you can, and to do that we have to get some sleep or something like that, right? Just to explain yourself and be transparent. And obviously, like I said, most people understand that. So I think that's good that you guys are doing that, and it's awesome, and just really understanding how the journey has been going for you guys. And with that being said, I did want to ask about how many customers do you guys have at the moment?
We are still growing and small at the moment, but we have around 500 paying customers at the moment.
That's awesome. That's actually a lot for the amount of time that you've been out there, right? Since April. So that's amazing. Congratulations. And obviously that's going to keep growing as you guys are testing and trying different things and understanding who the right audience is and things like that. With that, what's been the most challenging thing as a company?
To really, first of all, have a good team around, especially in the beginning when you are a small company, you can't pay salaries and you can't pay like amazing things. It's very difficult to really find people that are just motivated enough to work for a low salary, but just because they believe in the vision and the idea. And I think we were very lucky that we had people around us, and it took a while until we found the right people and the right team, but we are very happy right now. And that's that being said, I think the team is really, really important. The other challenges that we had, of course, finding the first customers, especially, how they always say that if you didn't go out with your product early enough, or if you weren't ashamed when you launched your product, then you weren't launching early, and then you were launching too late. So actually, that being said, I think I'm a very perfectionist person. Like I really like that everything is perfect and that the software works and all of that. And of course, in the beginning when you launch, lots of problems arise that you didn't expect, and customers are unhappy, and you have to kind of like all the time explain yourself and excuse yourself. And I think that was, especially in the beginning, very difficult before we had a stable product. I would go that farther. I think that right now we have a really stable and good product, but this was not the case from the beginning. And that's I think that was a really big challenge also for yourself as a person, that you have to like always excuse yourself and be very apologetic about it.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely something that a lot of people would deal with, right, in the industry. It's, you don't know what's going to happen, and you're going to launch with a product that might have flaws, and until somebody uses it, you don't really know what's going to happen, essentially. And really, you know, I think if the person it could go both two different ways, right? The person's going to be kind of upset about it and just like maybe they'll leave or something, or they'll help you out and give you ideas on how you can improve and things like that, or how it can make their experience better, essentially, which is what you're looking for all the time, right? It's finding ways to keep your customers happy and also improve the product at the same time. And that's, you know, getting into like churn and things like that, where essentially you're just trying to hear what most people have to say about the product to implement. Obviously, you can't do everything. That's just going to end in a bad place, because then you'll have a product with like a million different features that it's just going to be like way too hard to use. Nobody's going to want to even go in there or anything like that. So it's always important to take a look at those things. Now, on the other side of things, what would be the thing that you're most proud of? And it's okay to brag. It's okay to let the ego come out a little bit. For DerButton, right? What's the best thing that, like, when you want to talk to someone about the product, you go and that's the first thing you mention?
Ooh, that's actually a tough one. No, I was just saying that, like, I'm very proud of us as a startup, that we did not give up, because there were of course times where you like don't feel like you know, there are always those competitors that come out that you're just jealous about, because some of the competitors get millions of investments, and suddenly you rise next to you and you're just like, we want to do the same. And I think it's just very important that you don't give up. And I think I'm very, very proud that we did not give up, because right now we finally see it taken off, and we're very happy about that. And also, of course, this, I mean, it's for us here in Austria and in Germany, at least, very important, or in Europe in general, this cooperation we got with this telecommunication provider, that was, and also we received an investment for them, and that was just very, relieving too, that we have a strong partner on our side, can kind of help us take the next steps and get us to a bigger level now.
That's awesome. That's so cool. And we're kind of getting closer to the 30 minutes of the interview, but I did want to ask a couple of more questions. If you had one piece of advice for someone specifically in the SaaS industry, what would that be?
What I learned most was from my mistakes, actually. And I think that we, as I said before, I always tried to have a perfect product, and I wanted to have like everything nicely done before we got out of the market. And I was actually a little too ashamed to talk to people, to ask for feedback before we had something. And I think it was is something that's really important, that you start the testing very, very early, and that you really get even a prototype that looks like crap out there, just to show something and get feedback, and really use that feedback in the development phase, because we had a lot of feedback afterwards, after we have actually already had a somewhat working product, and then we had to change the processes, we had to change a lot of things, we had to we realized a lot of things during the way. And I think that's always the case, like you will probably always get some customer feedback that will make you change the whole product in a way. But if the sooner you get that, the better you can shape it, actually, that it is also a product that is in need. And I think that's my biggest advice.
Awesome. And to kind of piggyback off of that a little bit, are you doing anything specific to get product feedback from your customers, or do you just wait for it to come?
No, we actually started now with we're sending out emails to our existing customers, and we give them a month off, like a month free if they give us feedback, and we have this feedback form that they have to fill in, and then right afterwards they get a free month. And these things actually work quite well, but I also think that most of the customers that we have still right now in the beginning are early adopters, and they're very like tech driven. They really like to try out new things. So
Yeah.
those are the best customers, because they, even though they give us you sometimes very harsh feedback, and they know what a software can do, so they can really like give you more advice on how to get more out of it. So it is sometimes also quite frustrating, but overall it is really important to get those voices heard. And yeah, so that's what we also have the customer support chat box, where we get a lot of feedback in, and we are trying to communicate as much as possible.
I actually never thought about getting feedback from someone, that's technically savvy. I would imagine that some of the feedback coming from someone that is, IT or something like that would be very, very different from someone that is just a normal user. So that'd be definitely interesting to take a look at that. I can see how how it could be harsh too at the same time, right? But I guess you're going to get everything from either side. So, but that's awesome, because it can also give you the best feedback from a product standpoint, right?
One more thing about that actually is what we also realize is that even though we have a fully self-onboarding process, and people can actually just sign up with us, and they actually don't ever have to talk to us, we have now taken the initiative to talk to our customers nonetheless. And that's why we are actually, the moment somebody signs up with us, we actually book an appointment with them, where we want to explain them the product and meet them, and like just talk them through everything. So we show them how the booking process works, and they can have a video call with us, which is also a little time consuming, but it works really well, because people really like that personal touch, that they can actually talk to the company. And especially with those big companies out there that don't even have any like personal, like if you want to talk to someone at Google or Facebook, you don't ever find the right person to talk to. And that's why you really like us, that we are so personal, like so approachable. And that's something that we've just started a couple of weeks ago, and it's going quite well too, that we are really, and through those talks we actually get a lot of feedback too, and we really realize what is clear from our product and what is not so clear.
That's awesome. And it's something that I feel like I've touched on this on every other interview that I've had after a specific person mentioned it, but that was, doing things that aren't scalable. And essentially that's going to keep you from it's going to help you differentiate from bigger competitors, right? And you mentioned obviously like Google. I can't talk to the founder of Google or something like that, right? I can talk to you if I wanted to. I'd just go and like, I guess now if I go and try the product out, I'll get a phone call, right? Which is awesome, because it's, like I said, it's not scalable, and it's difficult to keep up, but it's definitely going to, it might, for one, it makes them feel important. Well, I'm going to get a phone call with the co-founder or the founder of this company, which is awesome. And it's definitely a personal touch. And not only that, but it's going to get them pretty much with the right feet forward right off the bat, which now, okay, well, she just showed me how to use this product. Now I can literally go and do it on my own for my next meeting, instead of having to try it out a couple of times before I get it right the first time. So I think that's awesome. And I'm pretty sure it's going to go really well, even though it's non-scalable. Maybe, once you grow to 10,000 and so on customers, you might not be able to go on every single one of them. But I think if you still hop on one here and there, it's going to be meaningful, and people will definitely enjoy it. And another thing is that essentially every single transaction that you make, no matter, whether it's online or offline or however you do it, it's an opportunity to create a relationship. And I think that's how it should always be, right? It's personal, it's a service, and obviously that's to help someone else. So I think it's always important to treat every transaction as a relationship, and obviously say thank you, right? For everything that's being done on both your end and their end, because they're giving you something and you're giving them something.
Yeah, exactly.
And so with that being said, I did want to ask you, what is one of the best books that you've read on business or something like that?
Ooh, so many. It's quite difficult. Actually, what I do now, I don't read books anymore, because to be honest, as a founder, you don't really have so much time. I mean, I'm sure many founders feel that way, that there are just so many books out there. So instead of reading books, I just read Blinkist, so the short versions of the books, and I felt like this gives me really some good like overview of all the different strategies, because I've met some other founders already that have been really like focusing on one book, and it seems like, and they were really trying to like follow all the steps in the book, and I'm just not a big fan of that. I think like there are many different strategies you can follow, and you kind of have to find your own way, but it's really good to like open your eyes with some other books out there. So I'm just reading like every day another book on Blinkist, like it's in 8
That's
minutes
awesome.
or something.
It gives
book
you
written book, you write a book, and that's quite useful, I think, to just save some time and still get the essence of it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually great feedback. I haven't heard that yet, but anyone that feels like they don't have, the time to read a book and sit there and do all these things. And obviously, if you want to get different perspective, you can get similar books in the same, topic and read all those, and then make up your mind for what you want to pick up and what you don't want to pick up out of that. So that's awesome. And with that on there, do you have any questions for me, Susanne?
Do you have any feedback for what would you suggest us doing to actually grow our business and to compete against those big competitors out there?
Well, at the moment, I'm not entirely sure on everything that you guys are doing. I'd be definitely interested in taking a look at that. But I think what you definitely need to do, and it's something that you already started doing, essentially, I never got a phone call from Calendly when I signed up. They didn't say, they sent a thank you email, but that was about it. I've never spoken to anyone on their team or anything like that. So I think that personal approach is going to help you really reduce the amount of churn later down the road. You might not have much of it right now, if any. But like, for example, if for whatever reason something happens with Calendly and I don't feel like I'm just another customer to them, that's really it, right? And if for example, if something happened or I saw that something had a better pricing option, it's very easy to leave when there's no relationship. And now you have, now there's this relationship, obviously you need, right, with you, for example, and you have a better product with more options, then it's kind of a no-brainer not to switch, right? Because you're giving me more product, you have a better price, and it's a relationship in between us. So it's definitely easier for anyone to leave and go to the next product. So I think it's just being personable and showing, like I said, being vulnerable and showing, that type of content is really important, and people really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
I don't know if I answered your question with that, but I think that's definitely one of the things that you can keep doing now, right? And so with that being said, I did want to thank you again, Susanne, for hopping on this podcast with me. It was an absolute pleasure learning more about DerButton and yourself, and, how everything kind of came to happen where you were, working at a more technical, not technical, but a more, what do we call it? Just not the SaaS industry. And now you're in a SaaS industry, and how everything, kind of happened, and, the challenges that you've been faced with, and now the successes that you're seeing, and partnerships happening and things like that. So it's very cool learning more stories like this, like yours, and understanding, how we can help people together by showcasing those things in a platform, and other people can pick things up that they want to start applying or implementing and learning from things that you've done. And things that you plan on doing. So I really want to thank you for that. And where can people find you online?
They can find us on www.DerButton.com, and German. And we have that code Fantôm. Actually, it's a voucher code that you can enter when you sign up. Okay. We have 2 weeks for free anyways to try it out, and with the Fantôm code you would get our product 50% off, which is
awesome.
So try it out, and give us feedback, and we will try to work on our product more and more. Thanks.
Definitely. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And you can find me on Instagram at camacho.ftm and also Fantôm.agency. And for anyone that's a SaaS founder, entrepreneur, CEO, make sure you join the group. If you want to be on the podcast, just let me know, and it'd be a pleasure to have you here. And other than that, I challenge every single one of you to go out and do something that's going to be meaningful, something that's going to help people create a product or just be better. And thank you so much, Susanne, for being on here today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. Great.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.